We will start out this morning with the founder and chairman of Penske Corporation, Roger Penske. And for those of you who may not know Roger Penske, if you're new here, they celebrated the 50th anniversary of Team Penske a year ago in grand style with 11 poles, 10 wins, sweeping the top 3 in the point standings. And in 2017, they have won all 5 poles thus far in the last 3 races in a row. So they sort of picked up where they left off a year ago. And so, Roger, no one has had the success at Indianapolis Motor Speedway that you've had, with 16 wins among 11 different drivers. So how would you weigh the importance of driver versus team versus luck in winning this race?
Well, I think, from our perspective, the driver makes a big difference. There's no question that we've been fortunate to attract the best drivers in the garage area year after year. I think the continuity of our people, if you look at very low turnover, drivers stay with us typically throughout their career, which is important. We're really a family. We might look different from the outside, but I think inside there's a lot of collaboration with the drivers, the teams. When one's in trouble, the others obviously work together to get them back on track. And to me, that's been the key. I think our sponsorships that have been so significant over the years have made a difference. We've been able to invest not only in people but also in equipment. And to me, it's the human capital side of it. It's the crews, it's the drivers, and luck is certainly very important. We've had maybe a couple of those, but if you really look at it time and time again, the people that win this race are prepared. They've got good cars and they execute on race day. Six Sigma is not good enough on race day when it comes to pit stops. You're going to have all your stops perfect, and there's so many chances that you have to take, or maybe you could take, that the drivers have got to say, hey, I've got to be ready, got to be there at the end of the race. We say that last 50 laps, you got to be able to see the front, and I think that's kind of been our motto. And with Rick, certainly when you think about his 4 wins, and Elio and Juan, and you look at the other guys sitting up here, I'm assuming that they joined the team because they'd like to win the Indy 500. And I remember when Hornish came on board, that was a goal we had, and we certainly have that with Will and Simon and Joseph. To me, it's great to come back here. I see so many changes when you drive in the Speedway. It's getting better. I think safety is so much more a focus today than it was many years ago. And the speeds, we've gone faster. But I can tell you the guys still have a hard time driving the car around here wide open every lap. So I think the technology is pushing us, and we got to figure out how to get our arms around it. It's going to be a great weekend next week when we have the race. It's be interesting to see how it comes out at the end.
Well said. I love that phrase, human capital. And you read Fortune magazine, they talk about Fortune 50 CEOs talking about Roger Penske does it with human capital, and I think here's a prime example of those sitting in front of you today. Sitting to his right, oh, by the way, before I go there, the president of Team Penske, Tim Cindric, not with us today, in case you're wondering.
We didn't
he is back
fire
in
him.
Charlotte.
His son was graduating from school. We figured it was probably a better thing that he was in school with his son. So that's his excuse, so I gave him a pass.
But Austin graduating, and Tim will be back later in the afternoon, so just in case you're wondering. Sitting beside Roger, the Ovalmeister, Rick Mears, one of only 3 drivers to win the Indianapolis 500 4 times. He's also a 6-time Indy 500 pole sitter. And if you didn't know, Rick started on the front row an amazing 11 times at Indianapolis. And Rick, you're a major part of this team as an advisor and as a spotter. But a lot of times, not only these guys, but others come to you for advice. What's the best piece of advice you offer these guys or anyone who comes to you and asks you about what it takes to win at Indy?
Well, I think first and foremost, Roger touched on it a while ago, being there at the last 50 to see the end of it. That's usually the main thing. You got to get the checkered flag before you can do anything. If you don't finish that last lap, you can't win it, period. So it's always kind of spend the first half, getting to the second half, and working with the car, working with the team, get things organized, and to gear up for that shootout at the end, to be ready for the shootout, to have the car the best it can be for the final few laps. And and that's the only lap you need to lead is the last one. That's the critical one. So make sure you get to that point. That's usually the main advice.
And the guy beside you has done that 3 times and leading the last lap. We're talking about the driver of the Shell Fuel Rewards Team Penske Chevrolet, Elio Castroneves, who is a 4-time pole sitter and hopes to become a 4-time Indy 500 winner. He's won it 3 times. Elio, how do you compare the stress and the pressure of pole day versus that of race day here for a driver?
Well, certainly, again, a quote from Rick, there are 2 kind of races here. It's the actual 500 and the pole day. And the pole day, to be honest, it's thrilling. There is a lot in hand. Over the years, they change a lot of the rules, but even with that, it's still very, very challenging. You put 33 drivers running to the limit. We're talking about knife edge. We're going through 4 corners for 4 laps, and in absolutely doing everything you can to hang on the last lap or the last 2 laps, basically, because you're running so low downforce. So any kind of a wind or distraction, it becomes very difficult to drive the car for those 4 laps. So that's the intensity of the pole day, which is fun. I have to say, it's a lot of fun. There is a lot of some strategy as well, and I enjoy it very much.
Well said, Elio. And to your right is a 2-time winner of the Indianapolis 500. He will be driving the number 22 Fitzgerald Glider Kits Team Penske Chevrolet, Juan Pablo Montoya. And Juan, welcome back to Indy. You know, your sponsor, Fitzgerald Glider Kits, they're new to the sport, but they seem to be very excited about their involvement as well. They should be, and are going to be hanging around for quite a bit. Tell us about this unique program they put together that will allow them to make a donation to the Paralyzed Veterans of America should you be able to win this a 3rd time.
Well, it's something they come up with, and I thought it was really good. You know, being Memorial Weekend and everything, they decided if I don't win the race, they're gonna donate $22,222, and if I get to win the race, it's gonna be $222,222. So it's I think it's really good. They're a great family. They're a great sponsor, and they're passionate about the sport. They're passionate about the country, and they really like giving back and supporting. And I'm very proud to have them in my car. And to be honest with you, I feel we got a really good shot at this, so I'm pretty happy.
Great to have you back here. And we'll go down toward the other direction. Beside to Roger's immediate left is the 2015 Verizon IndyCar Series champion, and now as of last Saturday, a 2-time winner of the Grand Prix of Indianapolis. He drives the Verizon Team Penske Chevrolet, Will Power. And Will, last weekend, your 30th win, but a record 250th pole for Team Penske and 190th IndyCar Series victory for Team Penske. What is that weekend, considering how well your team did in terms of record-setting pole, dominating the race, and getting the victory? What does that do for you and the team in terms of the psyche headed to the 500?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic start to the month. It always helps all the guys on your car, and obviously gives the driver some confidence. But you quickly forget about that weekend and move on to the process of understanding and getting a good race car for the 500, because that's the most important thing. So it gives you the opportunity to maybe sweep the month. That would be fantastic. Obviously, there's a lot of very good cars and drivers and teams out there, so I think it's going to be a really, really tough race next weekend. But we've done a lot of preparation. The team's got a group of very, very good, experienced drivers, and I have to say it's great to the information exchange that goes on if you're struggling a little bit, how quickly you can get yourself back on track. So it's a great situation.
It certainly is, and obviously the results speak for themselves. To your immediate left is the reigning Verizon IndyCar Series champion, who drives the #1 Menards Team Penske Chevrolet, Simon Pagenaud. And Simon got the first oval win of his career at Phoenix, so obviously ready to win on ovals now. This is the next oval in line. But you talked about getting that championship, and next in line for you was the Indianapolis 500. How was it growing up as a young man in France? How much did you notice the Indianapolis 500, and what were your thoughts about maybe being able to be a part of this someday?
Yeah, Indy has always been, one of the biggest race in the world. Personally, I was, as a kid, watching the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the Indy 500, and the Monaco Grand Prix. Those were the three, the crown jewel of racing. And as a kid growing up, just wanting to be a race car driver, this was a very far dream. So being here today is very special, and you need to remind yourself that every morning. But that's pretty easy when you drive a Penske car. Just feel like it's your birthday every day. So it's very enjoyable. I mean, obviously, like Will said, we have five teammates to work really well together, and it really helps us to get all the kinks out and get ready for the weekend. So I just love this race. Every time the checkered flag flies, it's like when is next year already? But for sure, after one championship, the goal is now priority number one. Personally, is to win Indianapolis 500, keeping the championship in mind, obviously. But yeah, it's just an incredible event.
Thank you, champ. Beside you now is the newest member of Team Penske. He drives the number 2 Hum by Verizon Team Penske Chevrolet, Joseph Newgarden. And Joseph, it took you only 2 races as a part of this organization to get your first podium and 3 races to get your first victory. They say when you move into Team Penske, there's a bit of an adjustment in terms of the philosophy and environment you're surrounded by. Explain to us how that is.
Well, obviously, with Team Penske, you have a lot of people around you, a lot of amazing people. I mean, I think the people, as Roger speaks to, is what really makes this team what it is. It's everyone from the top to the bottom, from the bottom to the top. It's amazing the amount of people that you get to work with and how detailed and talented they all are. For me, it kind of starts from the driver's side. That's the biggest difference I've noticed coming from ECR. I had talented and very experienced drivers to work with there, but then it kind of gets magnified here. You have more teammates with even more years of experience, getting to work with guys like Juan Pablo and Elio and Will and Simon. So that's the first thing that's been noticeable to me is that, if you find yourself off, kind of like Simon said, if you find yourself off in the wrong path, it's pretty easy to find your way back. And then vice versa, that goes around for everybody. So it's a different working environment for me. I've had to learn to adjust to that throughout the year, but it's been pretty easy to transition. The team has been phenomenal at figuring out, how to get me transitioned into the team. So, just trying to understand the process through the month, how we're working these race cars and what we're prioritizing. That's where Rick really comes in pretty handy, is helping understand how you prioritize the car for qualifying for the race, and then how you apply those 2 different situations. So once you get on top of that, hopefully you can make it count when it really matters during the 2 weekends.
Thank you, Joseph. Now we'll open up to the question. If you would raise your hand, we will hand you a microphone. And we would simply ask, as a courtesy to those listening outside this room, that you identify yourself and then direct your question.
Okay. Roger, Bob Kravitz with WTHR here in Indianapolis. Is your business model drawn from an existing business model, or is this something completely unique to you and to the sport?
Well, I think that what I've had the opportunity to do is take, our transportation business, which is about cars and about trucks, and, we have a lot of people who we engage with from a business perspective, and we've drawn them into the sport from a sponsorship perspective. So I think on the business side, business to business has been, very important to us. And on the other hand, we look at having it be tough to get in the organization. I say it many times in our normal business. I want it to be tough to join our organization, but I want it to be tough to leave. And I think that's why you see the same people with the same probably white shirts and black pants on, year after year at these races, because, we once you're here and we don't have drivers pay for a ride to get in our team. We're going to pay our people to do the job from top to bottom. And I think Simon or Will said, our guys, the guy driving the truck is just as important to me. And when I go to our dealership or I go to a truck location, I don't go in the conference room and look at a bunch of numbers. I go out and talk to the people. And I think that's been something my dad taught me, many, many years ago. Remember the people that work for you. And if you're worried about what's going to happen to yourself, you're probably not going to make it. Think about the organization you work for. And I've taken that kind of mission statement throughout the company for many years.
Wolfgang Munzer from Germany, Rennsport Press Agency. Just one question for Rick Mears. Roger said earlier when he started to talk about the team, he assembled one of the best drivers in the IndyCar garage. They're quick, they're experienced, a lot of success, etc. Nevertheless, do you still have some secrets for them to make them even faster?
Absolutely. But I forgot them. It's been a while. No, it's an open book. It really is. Always has been. That's the way this team works, and that's what helps make the team work. That's just a big part of it. You know, being open book. I actually grew up with my brother. He and I racing together, so I learned the team concept before I ever got here, and that helped me fit in right away. You know, we'd go home at night and pick each other's brains, say, what are you doing in turn one? What are you doing over here in this corner? What are you doing to the car? And we realized that if we could elevate each other to another level and get a step ahead of everybody else, all we had to do is race each other. That'd be a lot of fun. So that's kind of the team concept in a nutshell, and I understood that coming in. So it's always been pretty much an open book. Now, early on, before we started collecting all the data and everything, I might not necessarily, you know, lay it out there unless they ask me for it. You know, if they ask me, I'd tell them. But if not, I might keep it in my pocket. Yeah, I learned that from Bobby Unser.
Bruce Martin with Auto Week, among others. Elio, Rick is the only driver to get his 4th victory from his 3rd victory in less than 8 years. It took Al Unser 9 years to get his 4th from his 3rd. Took AJ 10 years. You're on your 8th year now between your 3rd victory. Do you feel the intensity level or the immediacy of trying to get win number 4 increasing as each year goes by?
Yes, I understand that, but it's not something that keeps in my mind. The numbers and the statistics and things like that. It's outside of my control. The only thing I can do is make a better race car, and obviously make sure that everything fits. As you just said, Rick, you don't win a race in the first lap. To finish first you got to finish, and we're trying to do not only for the Indy 500 but for every race. And yes, we're looking for. It's not something that I always say this place picks who is the winner. And last year, who would have thought, you know, in a few races situation, Ross ended up getting his win. Credit to the team playing this strategy. So it's all about being in the right place and the right time, and that's what we're going to do again. We're trying to put ourselves in the best position as possible to win this race.
Yes. Tony DeZino, NBC Sports. For Will, Simon, or Joseph, how is you guys started living here in Indy for the start of your guys' careers, and then you moved to Charlotte when you joined Team Penske. What has that change meant for you, and kind of how you guys integrate into the Team Penske atmosphere, being so close to the shop?
Yeah, I thought it was important to be around the team. I've always, you know, whatever team I've driven for, I think it's important to be close, because you need to go in, spend time with the people that you work with, spend time with your engineer. You know, after races, you need to go in and be face to face talking about, you know, which way you should go forward. So, yeah, I think if you're not living around the team, you're not serious about winning. That's, you know, as simple as that, and that's what I thought at the time.
Rick, Philip B. Wilson from IMS.com. I think Elio said after one of his qualifying runs that impressed you, and that told him, oh, I must have done something good if it impressed Rick Mears to qualify here that well. How does qualifying today compare to when you got into the car to qualify? Do you want a piece of that, or what do you think of it?
Well, I think it's, you know, the basics. The basics are still there. The basics are always the same. It's how do I get through that corner faster than everybody else? And to get that, you gotta get all four footprints on the ground working the best they can. Get the thing trimmed out as much as you can. Get it up on its tiptoes. And you know, if it's sitting down solid in the track, to me, there was more left on the table. So you know, you got to get it up on tiptoes, up on the right rear, freed up, and hold your breath. You know, and if you can hold your breath a little longer than the other guys and make it out the other side, you're fortunate. You know. You've done your job. So those, I think the basics are still the same today as it was a long time ago, and that's what you're always trying to achieve to do.
For Roger, Jeff Majeski, Chevrolet New Roads Magazine. You were kind of an early adopter of McLaren, if you will, ran their cars for several years, including the winner with Mark Donohue. Just wanted to get your thoughts about their return and involvement with the 500 this year.
Well, as you know, Bruce McLaren and I were great friends. In fact, a Formula One car that Jack Brabham drove here in the race, I guess it was a Formula One car that Hanskin had, and it was the engine that Brabham had that I put into a sports car and sold it to Bruce, so we became very good friends, and I was racing a Cooper Monaco back in those days, and when he started McLaren with Teddy Mayer and the group, you know, we were close, and we talked about going to Indy, and I think it was '71 when we came here the first time. Revson was driving their car. That was great to see on the track, you know, this past week, the McLaren Orange, because that was the outfit that the way they came to the track back in '71, and the car was fast. I remember I told Rick this. We took the car to Phoenix and took the wings off it, in fact, and drove it around. It was then put them on to realize how fast the cars were, because that was really the time when we went 180 miles an hour. I think for the first time, we didn't even have it on our little sheets that we had. It was the speed, but McLaren set the standard. He set it in Formula One. It's a shame that he didn't see the success of his team. And then to come back here, I think Zach Brown, who is, you know, from Indianapolis and really is interested in the sport here, and he knows how big this race is, and to be able to take, you know, Alonso and bring him here. I think about Graham Hill when he was here talking with him, and Jackie Stewart, and just all the different people that have been here to drive. This is a international race, and I think we've missed some of these, you know, great stars in other sports. You saw Busch came last year. I know Kyle would like to come, and you know, Tony Stewart obviously was a great competitor here. So that's what this is all about. You want to win here against the best, and I think people like Alonso that are taking the, and I don't say risk from a personal standpoint, I'm saying taking the risk to come here and race for the first time without racing in ovals is a big step. But I think this is a race that can be won. It's about strategy. The teams that are competing here all have experience now, and I think it's just tougher and tougher to win. But having McLaren back, I think is an honor for all of us to race against that car. And certainly, Bruce, I hope he sees, you know, this is a big day for the Indy 500 and next week.
My name's John LaFollette from Nuvo News Weekly here in Indianapolis. My question's for Joseph and Roger. An American's won this race twice since 2014, but it's been a while since there was that dominant American driver that won on the series as a whole. Is that something that you think this series needs, Roger? And for you, Joseph, as a caveat for you, being an American on this team, have you internalized that, or just what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I think it's a huge honor to be a part of the team regardless. You know, Roger's had great drivers from all over the world, and, you know, certainly being an American, I take pride in that, but I try not to, you know, bring it to something that it's not. You know, I mean, I think it's if you really want to look at it, look at the Indianapolis 500 and exactly what Roger was just talking about. You know, we want to have the best from around the world here. I mean, that's what I take pride in running in the IndyCar series. It's the most diverse series on the planet with, I think, the most diverse drivers and the best drivers in the world. So, you know, just being an American, you know, and flying the American flag for the team is special. But, you know, I think just being a part of Team Penske is even more special. So, you know, to me, I don't think about it too much. But if it's good for the series, then, you know, that's all the better.
You know, from my perspective, I think diversity is something we deal with every single day, and I don't look where someone's from or what color they are or where they came from. I'm looking at their capability, and have they been a race winner? You know, how do they fit into the team? And look, I've got some. When you look at this group of drivers here, there's not anybody in this garage I wouldn't take any one of them in 5 minutes, 2 minutes, to have them on their team, and that's what I want to have. So we get the best drivers, and to me, well, we want to bring them on the team and have them help grow. And when you look at the success we've had, I've said it so many times, it's about this whole group. You look at Clive Howell, been with us for 30 or 40 years, and some of you, Kyle Moyer comes on board with all that experience, you know, from Andretti. So these are guys that are, you know, really committed to the sport. So I look up and down here. These are just the best guys you can have. So wherever they're from doesn't make any difference to me.
Speaking of which, just for your notes, talking about diversity, 5 different drivers, 5 different countries represented up here for Team Penske. Okay, who's next?
Eric Smith, RaceView Online. I got a question for Elio and Rick. Elio, I know a lot of athletes are superstitious, follow trends. How much does this mean to you, or as far as do you follow that if trends hold true, you should be the next pole winner and race winner because coincidentally enough, you guys are all three, or all of you are sitting in order that have won the last 3 races from Joseph, Simon, Will. You're next. How does that, do you follow that at all?
I like it. Hey, I planned all of that. But anything helps, in this place, to be honest. I want it more than anybody, to be honest. To be in this position, to be so close to, obviously, Rick, Alan Sr., and AJ Foy. It's an honor. It's a privilege. It's a very incredible opportunity. So if you got to count all these little details, the numbers, the facts, the statistics, hey, I love it. It's but we just, in the end of the day, we still got to go out there and do your job and execute, and that's what we're going to do tomorrow and Sunday next week.
I've never been superstitious or any of that, but I always felt like, why take a chance? If I think it might help, I'll do it, whatever it is. And if the numbers, if the numbers work out, I quit a year too soon because I think the way my wins and between years, the next year was my turn. But hey, if it wasn't to be, it wasn't to be.
Hi, Megan McEwen, Wish TV. This is for Elio or Juan Pablo. You guys have won here. What kind of mental edge does that give you during qualifying and coming up to the race?
I think the experience of getting the job done here, I think it helps. I don't play big into qualifying. I never have here. You know what I mean? It's, for me, and I proved that, 2 years ago when I won, I was, after 8 laps, I was dead last. So it doesn't really matter where you qualify. It's nice to be up front, to run good here. I think we got good cars. But the main focus, you'll remember who was on pole here when you come back a year or 2 after. But the people I remember are the people that win the race. So, that's what you want to do. And, personally, I've come here for myself just doing this to race for Team Penske is to win it. You know what I mean? And I feel a good shot. I feel I got a really good car. So, and I don't believe in numbers either. It's what it is.
Well, for me, it's two kind of mental strategy, obviously, because I love both. Qualifying for me is awesome because you really push to the limit to how can you save yourself for 4 laps, and when you do it, you're like, whoo. As Rick said, I think I really train a lot to hold my breath for 4 laps, and probably helps a lot. But it's 200 in a race you can't hold for that long. But the same is situation with Juan Pablo. I started in the back, I started in the front. That's why the approach, you go by steps. First, you start with the qualifying, and after you're done with qualifying, now you change completely the mentality and go for the race. And it's kind of unique. That's why this race and this month or this 2 weeks, it's really fun because you really push to in one way and another, and it's a lot of fun.
Rich and I with WTHR. Joseph, did you guys learn anything or figure out anything about the crash, and does that linger with you at all, especially at a place like this?
Yeah, I think it's hard not to. I lost some sleep last night over it for sure. I think it's unfortunate to have an incident like that. I think we prep probably the best race cars on the planet here at Team Penske, so for me to have a mistake yesterday is tough to swallow, but it's one of those deals where I think you do have to learn from it. Any type of incident, anything that goes on around this place, you have to learn from, and it's unfortunate to learn something on a practice day coming into the pits. I was, didn't really expect it to happen, but it did. So, I've looked at it, I've analyzed it. Hopefully it'll make me better for the month, and try not to do it again. That's the only thing that you can really work on. So, yeah, it lingers for a bit. I won't lie to you, but you got to get back on the horse pretty quick and get going because this place doesn't wait for you.
Alan Bestwick with ESPN. We have, with our parents or with coaches, they all have ways of motivating us or phrases that they look at us and say, hey, we got to get going here. What's Roger's phrase? Does he have a phrase where he looks at you and say, hey, we need to pick it up, we need to do a little bit better? Is there one?
All he has to do is look.
Just, yeah. It's basically win.
Well, for me, I mean, I think Roger's always been very upfront, and he understands. For example, yesterday with Joseph, right away he wanted to make sure that Joseph was fine, and I believe one of the things that it really make us confident to go back out there, it's really care to make sure that we're good to go again. And it gives us a time. It gives the confidence when we're ready to go, we're ready to go, and that's what we do. I remember a few years ago I was upside down, and I was back on a horse, and no problem, because obviously we know how the guys do a phenomenal job back there, and I don't see any issues on that, and that's probably why it gives us the confidence to go without a problem.
Let me finish it up here by asking one quick question, just a quick phrase from each of the drivers, and that is, we hear all the time, Team Penske, team this, team that, sharing, camaraderie, being unselfish. At what point, let me start with the newest members up here with Joseph and Simon. At what point in the Indianapolis 500 do you stop being a teammate? You look over and say, no, wait a minute, if I pass Elio and Roger, the captain's calling Elio, he's probably not going to like that.
You fire.
At what point? You'll get your chance. At what point? Let's start with Joseph. At what point is it about Joseph Newgarden or Simon Pagenaud or Will Power? Joseph?
Well, I'm probably the wrong guy to ask. I think you should ask the experienced guys maybe first. But, I've not been in a situation where I've had to race a teammate at the end of this race. So, last year was probably the best opportunity that I had at potentially winning it, and I didn't have any teammates around me. So, at that point, it's pretty straightforward what you're going to try and do. I think you have to race your teammates as fair as possible. I think we expect to race each other as hard as we can. Why would you not? You have to. But I think with absolute respect and and thinking about the team at the end of the day, because you have to understand this is such a monumental effort from everyone involved. Not just from the drivers, but from everyone at the shop that makes these cars turn for this whole month, and everything it takes to get to the race and to run it and to run those 200 laps. You have to think about that. If you're running with teammates, you don't want to do something silly that jeopardizes the opportunity for the team. So, yeah, I think you're going to be a little bit selfish as a driver to try and win it, but you really have to think about the team at the end of the day because it's just of everything that's been put into it. So, that's how I'm going to approach it. I'm going to race my teammates hard, but I'm going to try and be as fair and as clean as possible.
Simon?
That's a tough question, Jerry. I guess, up until the race, we share everything. It's all open book. We have cameras. We have data. The engineers actually get together, actually with Roger and Tim in the morning. They have their meeting. Everything is complete open book, and the cars can be exactly the same if we want to be. But then when it comes to race, obviously, Roger wants us to win. So, and I do believe Roger likes us to race. So, you got to go racing, but the key word is not to crash each other. That's the key, and that's respect as well, which I think we've shown a lot of respect between each other, even though we race each other hard. And that's what's fun on this team. There's no team orders. That makes a big difference. You guys do think there's team orders, but there isn't. We're allowed to race, and that's what makes this team very special, I think.
Will?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously when you're getting down to the last 10 laps. I mean, I had a great battle with Juan, and Tim Cindric, who's on my radio, always made me aware. Remember, it's 1-2 right now. So you got to keep that in mind. You both don't want to end up in the wall. Like Simon said, Roger likes us to push each other. Not off the track, but push each other to be faster. And, it's a simple rule. Don't take your teammate out. I mean, that's always got to be in your mind, because it is ultimately the team that wins when one of us wins.
We'll let Roger be last. We'll go with Elio.
Yeah, the only thing I can say is that's a very good problem to have. If you're going to be 5 of us fighting the end of the race, I think Roger's going to be like, go ahead. Just make sure you finish whoever position you will
one
be.
of them.
Yeah, make sure that you guys finish. But it's very similar to what they said. It's we race hard, we race like any other competitor, but you want to make sure that in the end of the day, you the one deliver. But you want to make sure that both of all the cars finish like you would be another competitor as well.
Yeah, for me, is, you know, I mean, as Will said, you know, we 2 years ago we went through that, both of us going for the win, and you always keep it in the back of your mind that it's your teammate, and you want to be fair. You know what I mean? I'm a big believer of being fair, but at the same time, you know, you're the guy that want to win it, so you'll do whatever you can to make it happen, but you're not gonna risk, you know, taking each other out either. You know what I mean? Whether, to be honest, for me, whether it was my teammate or not, you know what I mean? You'll go as far as you think it's safe to do so. You know what I mean? And you're gonna learn to know when they're ahead of you and when they're behind you. You know what I mean? And when you can have the corner and when you can't. And I think we're all experienced guys. We all done it. And you know, hopefully we're in that situation. And so, you know, in 8 days from now, you know what I mean, or 8-9 days from now, if we can be in that situation, it's a good problem.
Roger, you got Elio Castroneves leading in the final laps at Indianapolis, but he's under attack from your 4 other drivers. What are you thinking?
Well, as Will said, it's a good problem to have. I think that just to put the record straight, you know, we don't have team orders. The only thing we do say is that, look, you know, the first part of the race, let's take care of each other. I guess I've said that a number of times, and you know, when we qualify 1-2, we don't need to be knocking each other off the track going in the first corner. You've got to give the guy that's you know, that had the fast time and is the pole sitter. But I think I've said it before. The last 10 laps, these guys should go at it as hard as they can. And you know, if we wreck, we wreck. And you know, that happens. It's happened to us a couple times. But I think they know that they know how to race. And I've just never been anybody with team orders. If it was a championship and something going on, not the Indy 500, then there might be another set of circumstances, and we would talk about it. But I can tell you, on race day, you know, I'm working as hard as I can to beat Cindric. He's trying to beat me, and all the way down the line, these 5 guys. If we don't race that way, we'll never get up to the front. So, to me, smart drivers know how to take care of themselves, and we'll see what happens.
Well, Roger, thank